Welcome back to Dolor Factor Live, of course on DBS. My gosh, time is just flying and there's still so much that we need to talk about. Now, in my introduction tonight, I asked many questions that we need to answer. But you know what, before we actually start that, I want to ask David to ask ask you a few questions. And what we're going to do is, you tell us the answers, and tomorrow at midday, you're going to be notified if you have won what David's going to tell you about. So over to you.
Okay, the questions are, first one, eating too much sugar in the form of candy, soft drinks, and other sugary treats can cause diabetes. Is that true or false? The second one is, with type 2 diabetes, the pancreas stops making insulin. Again, true or false? And the third and last one is, diabetics are required to eat more food than non-diabetics in order to maintain their weight. Again, is that true or false? So those are the three questions.
Would you mind repeating those questions again?
Yes.
True or false, viewers?
Eating too much sugar in the form of candy, soft drinks, and other sugary treats can cause diabetes. With type 2 diabetes, the pancreas stops making insulin. And third and last one, diabetics are required to eat more food than non-diabetics in order to maintain their weight.
Thank you very much for that. The questions are actually on the dolorfactorlive.com website, and also we'll be putting through on BBM. And what will the viewers win? Three lucky viewers.
Yes, the three lucky viewers will win one glucometer each. And a glucometer is a meter that tells you about your blood sugar, whether it's high or low. Okay, so it's a very good instrument to have. You can actually, if you don't have diabetes and you've won, you can actually give it to somebody who has. It's a good thing to do. That is if you don't want to be checking every day.
Thank you very much for that. A great prize. All right, something that will help you. So make sure that you answer those questions correctly, of course. Okay, let me ask a question about the association, the St Lucia Diabetic and Hypertension Association. What is it all about?
All right, the association was formed, of course, to be a voice really for diabetics and hypertensives. Okay, it was necessary to form the association, just like you have things like the Cancer Society and some of those other organizations, because the Ministry of Health would be concerned about total health. Now, of course, in that they would obviously have areas like, you know, an area for diabetes, an area for cancer and so on. But the Diabetes Association, Diabetes and Hypertension Association, is there to concentrate on diabetics and hypertensives. Okay, so basically it would be picking up the slack from the ministry, and so assisting the ministry in essence, but definitely paying greater attention to those persons affected. The other thing that the association does is to create awareness among the general populace about diabetes and hypertension, the dangers associated with those diseases, the way that these can affect your lives negatively, and to make people aware generally that prevention is better than cure, and that's very important. You know, the association preaches preventative measures, that people are supposed to take preventative measures so that they don't become diabetics. And you can do that from very early. Unfortunately, children get diabetes. As the doctor said earlier, the type 1 diabetics, these you may not be able to avoid. But for type 2s especially, you know, I mean, things like obesity, because people lead sedentary lives. So these things can be, you know, you can avoid getting type 2.
So is this a large part of the association's duty to educate?
Oh yes,
a large part.
As I said, you know, create awareness, assist the Ministry of Health, and the education. In fact, you will notice that we actually have an education committee as part of the association.
Okay, but let me just ask you something about this then. If, and briefly please, if it is the role of the association and I suppose individual responsibility to know the facts of diabetes, why is it that there is this big rumor? In fact, people don't think of it as a rumor, they think it's a fact that St Lucia has the highest case of diabetes per capita in the world.
Well,
is that not true?
No, it's not actually. St Lucia is said to have the highest incidence of diabetes in the world, but that is just misinformation.
How did that happen?
That came out of a study that was being done. Actually, one Dr. Michael Graven out of Canada was carrying out some research that was to do with the national, the NHC, it was the National Health, I don't remember the exact thing for it. Anyway, but that was where that came from. And Dr. Graven in his report said that 28.1% of persons had high glucose levels. And he was saying that 8.1% of those are deemed to have diabetes. But people caught on to the 28.1%, and so it was rumored that we had the incidence in St. Lucia was 28.1% of the population. But in truth and in fact, St. Lucia is about 88th place with an incidence of about 8.57%. So we leave that. So
why isn't that being corrected? Because well, I mean, everyone believes that.
The association has taken steps to try to correct that information, but somehow or the other, it still
but does that mean legs. That we don't need to worry anymore?
No. And I would say, Delia, as much as that figure might not be accurate, we're still very concerned about not just diabetes as a condition, but the way in which diabetics are handling their condition. So maybe we may not have very high rates of diabetes, but we have very high rates of complications of diabetes.
All right.
So at the end of the day, it's not really, back in the day, if someone said, I'm diabetic, you probably look at them and say, boy, it's like you have a death sentence. That's far from the truth now. So it's not really so much a concern whether or not somebody is diabetic as whether or not that person is taking care of themselves and making sure that they don't develop complications of diabetes.
All right. They can only do that if they're aware of the symptoms. What are they?
Right, so here we go again. Now, in terms of symptoms, it's important that people out there know that diabetes is one of these conditions which does not necessarily have to be symptomatic. It can be silent, okay? And in its
when you say that, do people confuse diabetes with cancer? Because they do say that cancer is silent.
Well, yes.
You can. I mean, some of the symptoms. I know you don't want to talk about symptoms, but they can be similar sometimes.
I'm happy you mentioned that because you see, we try to emphasize to people that there's a whole range of conditions which have a nature of being silent until they're really in the advanced stages. So there are certain types of cancer which can be silent until they're advanced. Diabetes can be silent until it's advanced. High blood cholesterol can be affecting you for years and you not know it. And hypertension could do the same. So it is in only a certain percentage of people where you will see that they come and they complain about urinating frequently or weight loss.
Okay, now all these things that you're saying, because I want to draw us back. I know there's just so much to go on, but the actual symptoms of diabetes, what should our viewers be looking for?
Okay, so they should be looking for excessive urination, especially waking up at night to urinate, weight loss, feeling very thirsty, and for some people they will notice an itch. But I would like to emphasize,
an itch where?
Just generalized itch, feeling itchy in a generalized way, and there's no reason. They don't have any rash or any eczema. So Didier, I'd like to emphasize to our viewers here, if one take-home message you should be getting from this program is that you need to make sure you're checking your blood pressure, your blood sugar, you're checking your cholesterol, you're doing your routine screens like a pap smears. Because the main reason is that a lot of people get ill from conditions which are asymptomatic. And if you do your screens, you can go a long way in diagnosing these conditions early and preventing yourself from getting sick. Now, this is where I just want to mention quickly, this is where we are very much in support of the the St Lucia Diabetic and Hypertension Association. Whenever they call on me, I have a very hard time saying no. Because here we have a group of people who are hypertensive, who are diabetic. These people actually suffer from these conditions. And they're coming together not only to take care of themselves, but to try to push awareness for people who may become diabetic, or people who may be affected by those diseases, and they're doing so in a way that they're pushing not only for awareness, but pushing for instruments, for supplies, for better allocation of funds for the grouping. So we really support them because of that.
I just want to say to Doctor that people must take this to heart. You must do your screening. It's rather important because, as the doctor said, these diseases are silent killers in the main, you know, and it is important. That's the only way you can catch it, you know, by doing the screening. The other thing I just want to say is that what we advocate is that we don't have the highest incidence of diabetes in the world, but our mortality rate is high from diabetes, you know. So whereas we are ahead of a lot of these developed countries in terms of the incidence, but people with diabetes in those countries live much longer than people in St Lucia with diabetes. So,
now, you know, you're saying that, and I'm feeling really sad, not because of what you've just said, but the fact that we actually have to say goodbye to you.
Yeah.
Because I'd love you to stay a little bit longer and talk some more. But thank you so much for sharing, you know, your personal situation with us. Is there just something very, very quickly that you'd like to tell the viewers?
No, just to say again, just make sure you go do your screening. That's rather important. It is just, I cannot emphasize it enough. So please, I'm appealing to you, just go. I mean, the association is there for one. You can go there. It's very inexpensive to get a blood sugar test done, or a blood pressure test, or go to your nearest health center, or go to the hospital. But it is important that you do it.
All right, I think viewers, you got that message, okay? So thank you very much, David Hippolyte, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Good. All right, now viewers, stay with us, because when we return, we have Azelia Glace. She's actually a nutritionist, and she's going to talk to you about the types of foods, which is a very important thing when you're diabetic. So this is Dolor Factor Live. We'll be right back after the break.